IB Nation, welcome back to another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Notre Dame fans, we have a great show set up for you today. It's Thursday, so we will have our game predictions. Trevor and I will make our score predictions today. We'll talk about game records for the Irish. We'll have our Week 13 cheering guide. What games do you need to be taking a glance at? Keep the scoreboard watching this weekend, and of course, we will break down to the two big games this weekend. And then Trevor and I are going to dive into the conference races. But before we do, Trevor, here on the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by FanDuel, before we get started talking about all that, we have a special guest for y'all, and we would like to welcome to the show former Notre Dame star quarterback Joe Theismann, who played at Notre Dame, actually still holds the all-time single-game passing record at Notre Dame, which you set, Joe, back in 1970 against USC, 526 yards. And welcome so much to the former Washington Redskins quarterback. I would get in big trouble at home if I did not mention that you were the Washington Redskins quarterback. My mom and dad were big Redskins fans and big Joe Theismann fans, obviously. But welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today, Mr. Theismann.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. Trevor, it's good to catch up with you guys. Yeah, it's funny that through all this time, no one at Notre Dame has thrown for more than 500 yards. As much as they throw the ball around in this era of football, it's amazing that record still stands.
Well, I know Jack Cohn was the closest to get there. I was actually at the Fiesta Bowl game in 2021 when he threw for 509 yards in that game. And that's the closest. Brady Quinn never even got to 500. He had a bunch of games in the 400s during his career, but never got to 5. So there's only been 2 games ever that were over 500 yards. And you talk about doing it in big moments. Jack did his in the Fiesta Bowl. You did yours against USC. So, saving your best for the biggest moments. But you obviously went on to have a long career at the Washington Redskins, won 2 Super Bowls with the Redskins, correct?
Went to 2.
Just 1? That's right.
Just 1. Gee whiz.
So, hey, you know what? It's just like Redskins won so many different eras. I'm like, okay, that was the Doug Williams one. That was the Mark Rippon one. Okay, right. So now so won a Super Bowl. That's right. And so obviously you've been keeping a close eye on this Notre Dame team here in 2025. And so we wanted to have you on and just talk a little bit about the Irish. But first of all, there's a player at Notre Dame, and you've seen a lot of great players over your years, not only played with you, played before you. We were talking before the show about how when you were a kid, you also grew up watching Notre Dame games, the Sunday replays with Lindsey Nelson. So you've seen a lot of great backs, and Notre Dame has one now in Jeremiyah Love. And just wanted to first and foremost ask you just your thoughts on what you've seen from Jeremiyah just this season and throughout his career at Notre Dame.
What a treat he is to watch. His numbers are almost identical to a year ago when you really stop and think about how difficult it is to be able to repeat things at any level in sports. But I was going through his numbers again. I mean, he's on 7. He's headed for 17 touchdowns again. Has 14 this year. The numbers are unbelievable, and take into consideration that he really shares the backfield. So I think he is the smoothest, the quickest, the most powerful back in football. And for God only knows, I cannot understand what is wrong with the Heisman hype where he is not included in it. When you think of the running backs that have won the Heisman Trophy, I've been going through, Marcus Allen, Mark Ingram, Bo Jackson, Reggie Bush, Derrick Henry. I mean, you go through the list of running backs that have won the Heisman Trophy, and he deserves to be in that category. And I'm just shocked that more and more people haven't talked about Jeremiyah's ability to be able to be at that level, because certainly he is, he's sort of the spoon that stirs the cup as far as Notre Dame goes. And he and Price are just incredible. But I love watching him run the football. And then, every time he scores, it's, you got to have love, man. And that's exactly what we have. But that is something I would hope gets corrected here in the very, very near future when they consider the Heisman Trophy, because he certainly deserves it. He's by far, I think he's the best football player in college football. I think, and certainly the best running back.
Well, and that's what's a little frustrating, because it has become such a quarterback-driven award. It's basically, if you're the starting quarterback for one of the 5 to 6 best teams in college football, you're going to be considered the front runner. And it seems like it's not really about the most outstanding player. In the 70s and 80s, I mean, running backs were winning it constantly back then. I mean, Bo Jackson, I think, didn't George Rogers win one year? You obviously had Marcus Allen won the Heisman Trophy.
There's 40 or 50 of them. See, what the trend has sort of moved away from the position, but it shouldn't ignore the fact that the best college football player is a running back. Yeah, and listen, this is coming from a quarterback, okay? I appreciate what they look at, but when you look at what he does, you look at the moves he makes, you look at the way he runs the football, you look at his durability, you look at him catch the football, you look at him block. I mean, he is as complete a back as we have in heck, he's better than most of the guys at the professional level. But his ability to be able to do things is just incredible. His balance is unbelievable. I could go on and on and on about all the things that he does so very well that I think really makes him the single best player in collegiate football.
That's one of the things that I actually wanted to talk to you about is you went through this yourself in 1970 and the Heisman train kept rolling. So I guess two-parter. First, what is this kind of like for Jeremiyah Love in this experience, starting the season as one of the most recognized running backs in college football to now the Heisman hype train is rolling? And then what does he have to do in your eyes in the last two games to kind of put him over the top?
I don't think he has to do anything more than he's done. It's out of his hands. Just like is out of mine. It's out of every Heisman Trophy winner's hands. It's up to the people that are voting. It's up to the people that make decisions on who gets the Heisman Trophy. But all he can do is continue to go out and play the kind of football that he has played, which I fully expect him to do. And, now we're positioning and focusing towards the playoffs. And you can't let one of these get away. The important thing is you can't stub your toe. We seem to stub our toe early and then come on like a house on fire. And then at the end, we just have to stay true and solid and be able to do the things that we've done as a football team. And certainly Jeremiyah, like I said, is a big part of it. And Jadarian's the same. I mean, the two of them are the best 1-2 combination in football.
I always love looking at this. I have to note this before we continue this conversation, but I always Trev and I will look at different historical things. Like, man, could you imagine this? The top three vote getters for the Heisman Trophy in 1970. Number 2, Joe Theismann from Notre Dame. Number 1, Jim Plunkett. Number 3, Archie Manning. So 3 legends right there, all 4. Jack Tatum also was in the top 10 that year in voting. So I do kind of miss the days where the Heisman Trophy wasn't just the dominant quarterback award. As we mentioned, Jim Plunkett won it the year you were a finalist. The 2 years before that, it was running backs. The next year after you, Pat Sullivan won it. Then Johnny Rodgers won it, 72, a wide receiver. And then the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years was all running backs. And some legends, Mike Rozier, Herschel Walker, Marcus Allen, George Rogers, Charles White, Billy Sims, Earl Campbell, Tony Dorsett, Archie Griffin. We actually saw Tony's Dorsett this past weekend. He was in Pittsburgh. I was down on the field doing a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's right. Tony Dorsett. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like I said, that was sort of an era where people focused on the running back position. Then it has gotten away. It's gotten to quarterbacks, but you can't ignore the numbers. You can't ignore the impact, and you can't ignore his ability. That's sort of the way, and I'm not prejudiced in this fact. If he was playing at another school and was doing the things he was doing, I would say the same thing. But the fact of the matter he is at Notre Dame. We are making a run at the playoffs. We're making a run at the, title again. And it's just amazing what he's been able to do. I mean, you have a freshman quarterback, so you're relying on his ability to be able to do the things he does to be able to help carry this football team.
Well, speaking of the numbers, I mean, this is his resume. He's number 3 in all of college football in yards per game, rushing yards per game, 113.5. He's 5th in college football in scoring. Just look at touchdowns, he's 3rd. And the only FBS player or P5 player ahead of him, Kewan Lacey's played one more game than Jeremiyah has this season. And then you look at all-purpose yards, and which is obviously rushing, receiving, returns, and all that. He's 4th in college football and has no return yards this year. So, and not just that, it's the highlight plays he's been doing all season that factor into this as well. He's a dynamic player, and as you mentioned, there is a redshirt freshman quarterback that Notre Dame has. And we want to talk about him as well. Trevor, I know you had a question that you wanted to lead off here talking about CJ, because obviously when we talk about the title run, you need Jeremiyah Love to be that guy, but you're also going to need your quarterback and the rest of the offense to step up and make plays too. So Trevor, why don't you kick us off talking about CJ?
Yeah, when I was growing up, I was always told that the hardest jobs in the world were brain surgeon and starting quarterback at Notre Dame. And so you are a part of a really elite fraternity of players, and not a lot of people understand what it takes to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. So what have you seen from CJ Carr that has kind of led to his on-field success?
Well, first of all, Trevor, I just want to clear things up. I am not a brain surgeon, nor would I aspire to be one, to be honest with you. I've just seen him grow. Like I saw Riley Leonard a year ago. It's amazing to me as I watch these two young men, as I watch Riley continue to progress through the year. And Mike Denbrock, our offensive coordinator, I think has done a terrific job basically taking first-year guys and moving them along and giving them a little bit more and asking a little bit more of them as the year has gone on. I think he's done a masterful job with Riley. I think he's done a masterful job with CJ. I mean, look at the games. You start in Miami, the guy makes a one-handed catch, you lose the football game. Then you get A&M, and we know how good they are. You have them down to the wire on a 4th down. And by the way, they did tackle our defensive lineman in the middle of the football field that they didn't call. But I'm not crying over spilled milk, just presenting facts. But you look at the starts, and then you watch him get better and better and better and better. I love to study the position, especially with our quarterbacks. And with CJ, I see the mental part of it. He knows where to put the football. He knows to get rid of the football. He understands how to protect himself. These are all things a lot of young quarterbacks really don't understand. I would hope and pray that over the period of time that we get him back at least for another year. With the way the portal is and everything that's going on in college football, who knows? But I'll tell you something, he's special, and I've loved to watch him continue to get better and better and better, throwing the ball down the field, throwing the ball in the middle of the football field, making decisions to pull the ball down. He doesn't, he's the thrower first, passer first, runner second, which is great.
Well, and for people who maybe don't know a lot about CJ's backstory, I would encourage you to read the article that was published today in the Players Tribune, talking about the experience he went through as a 10-year-old watching his brother Chad battle cancer, and obviously eventually lost that battle to cancer. And CJ has said, like, this isn't pressure for me. That was pressure. Like, that was hardship. This is a game. And I do think that has made him uniquely equipped to handle what is just an absolutely incredibly challenging position to play, not just from you play good teams, you're trying to win a championship, but just the spotlight, the scrutiny that's on you, which, I mean, as you know, that's always been there, but now it's just so amplified with social media and 24/7 news cycles and message boards and things like that, that even guys like Brady Quinn didn't, who was played not that long ago, didn't have to really go through. And it is amazing to watch the way in which CJ handles himself, even as a young redshirt freshman quarterback.
It's a huge stage. It really is. I mean, when you're the quarterback of the University of Notre Dame, you say that to anybody, everybody knows. And I think having his grandfather Lloyd, be the coach that he was, be around that environment a bit, you get a chance to, you get a real feel for what it's all about. And I think he's just handled it tremendously. And the thing I like about him, I spent some time with him. He really wants to learn. Some of these young guys think that they're the cat's meow. They get to a certain point, it's like, I'm here, I made it. He just continues to want to get better and better and better at his trade at playing the position of quarterback. And that's an indication of how good the student is as well as the athlete.
I think that's a very unique. You've said that, and it's interesting because I've heard other people say that. Ian Book has talked about that. How anytime he's around, CJ just wants to pick his brain, and it's not just about how do you go against cover two, but it's hey, how do you handle this experience? How did you handle the pressure? How did you handle the media? How did you handle those things? He understands that being the quarterback of Notre Dame is not just about I have to go win games on Saturday. It's the all-encompassing thing.
Well, Brian, pressure to me is when you're ill-equipped for a situation, then you're under pressure. But if you've studied hard during the week, if you've prepared well during the week, you get into the game. It's not there really isn't pressure. It's just a question of execution. Now, everybody will talk about the pressure. If you're on the free throw line at the end of the game, if you make both free throws, you win the game. Oh, what incredible pressure you're under. Well, if you shot 150,000 free throws before, It's a pretty comfortable place to be.
Mhm.
And those people that haven't been there don't really understand that. So to me, pressure is a lack of preparation. Pressure is not the game. To be honest with you, when I played for Washington, I loved bigger games. I felt much more comfortable in an NFC championship game or a division game than sometimes when I played against an opponent that didn't have that good a record. Not that I didn't work as hard, but it felt more comfortable for me to be prepared at the higher level.
How did where'd that come from? Is like, did your experience at Notre Dame kind of help you get to that point in time, or was it like an evolution? Like, because obviously, as you know, not every quarterback's like that. I mean, not every guards like that. Not every in the NFL. Or, I mean, in NBA, not everybody can make those clutch shots. I mean, obviously, it's something that some people have and don't, but it's something that obviously has to be developed. Like, where does that come from? Obviously, with CJ, you've talked about. He wants to learn. He's a sponge. He's in the film room all the time. He's always learning. He's always asking questions. If he's doing it of you and he's doing it of Ian Book, he's definitely doing it of Mike Denbrock and Gino Gaduli. But for you, what role did being at Notre Dame play in that? Or, did you already have it? Did it enhance it? What role did being the quarterback at Notre Dame? Because the Redskins were not some, new franchise that had never won before. When you got there was expectations there as well to continue that Super Bowl tradition.
It started in high school at South River High School in New Jersey for me. I was blessed to have a pretty good receiver by the name of Drew Pearson when I was in high school. So that always helps take a little pressure. That always helps take a little pressure off you. But and then we only played one game my freshman year at the University of Notre Dame, and I did something. I probably the best decision I ever made at the university is I was one of 13 quarterbacks when I signed. There were 12 other guys that were quarterbacks that were signed, and I went in a week early. So I could spend some time with Coach Pagna and Coach Barsegian and really understand the offense and know where to stand in the huddle, know the cadence. And like any meeting people have or like any practice, you want it to run smoothly. And so I thought I managed to give myself a little bit of an edge to be able to move to the front of the line. And then it was a question, was I good enough to be able to play the position? Was I good enough to be able to be the quarterback at the University of Notre Dame? Won the job as a freshman, and then I returned punts for the first 7 games my sophomore year. And then Terry got hurt at the end of practice one day, and Era turned to me. He said, "You're in." And it was really funny. On Era's 90th birthday, I'd never asked him why he chose me. They had Bob Belden, Coley O'Brien had quarterbacked the national championship game 2 years prior, so it was like, why me? And he said, I just felt like you were ready. And, I was one of the biggest compliment I've ever received is he felt like I was ready. And I think that had to do with the preparation that I put in to try and get myself ready to be able to be in that position. Now, it's one thing to have the opportunity. It's another thing to be able to take advantage of it. But at the quarterback position, I've said this umpteen times, it's the single most dependent position on the field. CJ's success as a quarterback at Notre Dame, and he's ranked very high, is directly related to Jadarian as well as Jeremiyah, and the wide receivers and the offensive line. So they're all intertwined with one another, but there's a really wonderful working unit. And like I said, I think Mike's done a terrific job, but you can't talk about the University of Notre Dame and not mention Marcus Freeman. The job that he has done with this football team, keeping these guys focused over these 2 years as he's built this program is just phenomenal. And, and his loyalty to stay to the university with all these offers that are being dangled all over the place. He's a very special man with a very special talent and tremendous leadership skills. And, the university is blessed to have him.
I've actually spoken. Bob Belden is involved in a Notre Dame club out in Canton, and I've had the pleasure of speaking in front of that group several times. Had a chance to meet Bob. Very, very good man, very kind man. So very, very fond of him. And I forgot that you guys were teammates. He's actually mentioned that to me before. He said I might have played at Notre Dame if it wasn't for Joe Theismann. So. He
had Terry in front of him and then me behind him. He wound up in a sandwich that wasn't very good for him.
Yeah. You talk about the impact Coach Freeman's had at Notre Dame, and it really is interesting to me to see how the perception of Notre Dame has changed in such a short period of time because of what Coach Freeman and the staff he has acquired, brought on. Because you look at all the great coaches, Coach Barsegian, I mean, you look at Coach Holtz, had some legendary coaches, Joe Moore, Barry Alvarez. The sign of a great coach is, can you put a great staff around you? And he's certainly done that. But it is interesting to watch. I mean, I kind of, Trev and I have said this. You look at the uproar that's from everybody about where Notre Dame is ranked in the playoffs every week. Nobody's talking about how Utah's ahead of Miami. Nobody's talking about how BYU's ahead of Miami. Nobody's upset about where Oregon is or where it's about Notre Dame. And I say that's a sign that Notre Dame is getting back to being that program that you either love them or you hate them. Because for a while, a lot of people were indifferent about Notre Dame because they're not on our level. The fact that they've now done what they've done, beat Georgia last year. We like to joke that he won more New Year's Six bowl games in a week and a half at Notre Dame last year than Brian Kelly won in 12 years. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But the perception of Notre Dame has changed so much just from, hey, this is not a team that you just, they'll beat the teams they're supposed to, but can't win the big games anymore. They're now the team that people look at and say, that team is big time. I mean, you've heard Nick Saban say it multiple times this year. That's a top 5 football team. He certainly changed the perception of this program in a quick period of time.
Absolutely. And really, what's your goal? Your goal is to get into the top 12. Eventually, you're going to play somebody that's really good. You're going to play somebody really good when you get in there. And I think this team has built itself in that direction. Like you said, you go back to the first couple of games where CJ's just really learning how to play the position. Mike's learning what he has at the quarterback position. He's learning the offensive line. He's learning the back. All those things are learned processes. Now you get further down the road and you see the progress and you see the improvements and you see the confidence build in this football team. You beat people that you should beat the way you should beat them, and that's what we've done. People come in with good records, and all of a sudden we beat them by 35. Is that a testament to our abilities? I think so. That's the thing and it's really interesting. And it's the same thing at the professional level. There's perceptions about teams like the Tennessee Titans aren't a very good football team. But if you go in there thinking that they're not a good football team, you're going to lose a football game. I think the one thing that to me has been a hallmark with Marcus, especially over the last couple of years, is it doesn't matter who lines up on the other side of the ball. We're going to play Notre Dame football. We're going to do it the Notre Dame way. And we're just going to keep on pounding and we're going to keep on coming. Doesn't matter who's over there, but this is who we are. And that's the only thing that matters. And that's the culture that he's created. It is their culture. It's this group of young men that have created a culture that is so unique and so intense and so focused that, they know that the prize is out there. Now the question is, can you go get it?
Well, let's follow up on that. You watch a lot of college football. You watch a lot of NFL football. You watch this Notre Dame team. Do you think there's always the race? Obviously, there's several teams, but do you think they're a team, not the team, but a team that has what it takes in all the different phases to go win a championship? Because back in the day, it's not like, hey, you just got to get voted into the top 2 of the BCS or the top 4. Like, you've got to get in there and you've got to do some damage for several weeks in a row. Do you view this team as having what it takes?
I think so. I think
to do that.
I do. I think they can compete with anybody. Certainly Indiana's, I think Indiana could be a sleeper in this whole thing. They're a really, really good football team. Obviously, Ohio State is a really, really good football team. A&M, a really good football team. Like I'm saying, now you're getting into the cream of the crop when it comes to college football. Obviously, some teams will be left out and everybody's going to be upset, but that's for them to worry about, not us. Notre Dame plans on being there and plans on being in competition. Oklahoma's playing really good football. Which is projected to be possibly the rivalry, the rival for Notre Dame as the playoffs start. But there's the teams that are going to be in the top 12 are football teams that are really good football teams, and this is what Marcus is building towards. Let's set our standard. Doesn't matter who's on the other side of the ball. Let's play Notre Dame football, and that's what he does.
Trev, you got some follow-ups here? I got several more, but you know how I tend to dominate these conversations. So I wanted to give you a shot to jump in there before I keep rolling.
No, you're good, man. Really, the only other question that I had, and it's kind of been answered already, but you were surrounded by one of the best coaches in Notre Dame history, Ara Parseghian. What are some of the traits that you saw in him that Marcus also has? Because I'm a believer that championship caliber coaches are kind of from the same DNA. They might operate differently, practices might look differently, but what have you seen from Coach Freeman that lets you know it's like, okay, yeah, he's the guy?
It's funny. He and Ara were different. I was scared to death of Ara. I would, honest to gosh, he would be in his tower, and we'd be on offense, be on one side, defense be on the other. And if I got a note that coach wanted to see me, man, I was a wreck. What did I do? You start running that scenario in your mind. What did I do? What did I do wrong? What did I mess up? All he wanted to know was how my family was, how I was doing in school, and how everything was going. You walk out there and go, okay, got over that one. Marcus has a very intense, you see him on the sidelines. He has a very intense, an intensity about him. It's almost an energy around him that is intense. And also Eric Cole plays for us too. So he was involved in a little bit of a different way. And Marcus has his pulse on everything that's going on. I think the way he handles the players when they come off the field, if mistakes are made, it becomes very visible, but not in a demeaning way. I mean, I think he's very forceful in what he asks his players, and he's very demanding of what they give him, of what he wants, and they answer the call. But he has a great personality. I see him sometimes, on a Saturday morning before a game, if it's a later game, and I'll walk by and I swear I'll say hi. He'll say hi, but I swear he never saw me. He's just so focused on what the task is at hand, and I feel we're so fortunate to have him there at the university.
I think it was actually, it's obviously Coach Parsegian retired before I was born, but I still remember my first year at Notre Dame in 2010. I was standing there at the gate where, the old practice field, the gate in the corner that you'd kind of walk in, they'd open up, you walk in, and I'm standing there, and around the corner comes this little white-haired fella, and I'm like, that's Eric Parsegian. I was like, I'm in a different world now with this job. Like, it's a different universe.
The legend is walking up to me. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
That's right. I'm just like, and I don't get starstruck very often, but I'm just like, wow, this is
he had a
time.
passion. Ryan, I'll tell you, he had a passion for the game. He really did. I mean, he was as intense, and he would be up in that tower, and I'd run a play, and I'd miss something. I knew I missed something. And I'd glance up, and he wasn't looking at me. He was looking the other way. So I said, okay, fine. All of a sudden, before I got ready for the next play, got in the huddle, he said, Joe, don't do that again. I'm going, how did he know? How did he know? I can't believe it.
Well, when you started, your first start was who was your first start against?
I think it could have been Pittsburgh or Georgia Tech in 1968.
68, because I was looking at the schedule in 1968, and I was trying to kind of go over it because I know you guys.
It was like we played USC the last game, and then 2 games before that was the start.
Yeah, so Pitt, Georgia Tech, and USC has you in the season because I know you guys started that season with Oklahoma.
It was
at the beginning of the season. Yeah. So, obviously Notre Dame played Pittsburgh last weekend. It was kind of their last big chance to make a statement. And I think last weekend to me showed what this team is capable of when they're clicking. When you talked about it, you had Jeremiyah Love making big plays. Jordan Faison and Jardarian Price didn't really do a whole lot on offense, but both made big special teams plays. The defense is just absolutely on fire. And then of course CJ made his mistakes. But this team showed that if you can avoid some of those mistakes, you are very dangerous. And I wanted to ask you this, kind of looking at that game, what do games like that do for a young quarterback where you make some big plays, your team wins, but then there's also some of those mistakes that you make? What's it like? People say, well, you'll learn from them. What does that mean? Like, what does that look like? How does a player process that and then learn from the positives, but then also those negative plays?
No season's going to be perfect, and no games are going to be perfect. The mistakes are going to be made. It's how you handle the mistakes. How do you put it behind you? How do you move forward on to the next play? And like I said, it's the single most dependent position on the field. Special teams plays make a big difference. Defense makes a big difference. I actually think our defense is better this year than it was a year ago. I think, the secondary's gotten better and better. The guys, are covering better, tackling better in the secondary. In the beginning of the year, it was a little bit of a challenge, but now they've come around. And as far as CJ goes, he's just, you just keep your nose to the grindstone. You keep learning every day. My favorite saying is the day you stop learning is the day you stop living. It applies to the quarterback position. It applies to life. And that's what he's doing. But, you sort of feel like, all right, my guys have my back. That's basically what it is. And it gives you that confidence to go out there and not be afraid. Be afraid to throw the ball, afraid to cut it loose, afraid to make that tight window throw. You don't have that.
I think the thing that's really impressed me about CJ, and I'm just kind of see if you see it the same way, but Trevor and I have talked about this. Even the first practice of fall camp, he threw picks on back-to-back plays.
Yeah.
The next 2 possessions, he led them down on scores. You go back to the Texas A&M game, and he throws a pick. It's a bad pick. I mean, trying to do too much, throws it over Jadarian's head. They come back the next series, and Mike Denbrock calls pass plays on the first 2 plays, and he completes 1 for 6 and 1 for 25. You look at this past weekend when he throws the first interception, he throws a pick 6, and they come out in his next pass as a backside seam throw to Eli Raritan in the same part of the field he just threw an interception. Yeah. I think that says more than anything to me. The interception he had against Miami, it's a bad decision, leads him on scoring drives the next 2 possessions. Having a young quarterback that, as you mentioned, they're going to throw interceptions. They're going to make mistakes. Brady Quinn, his first year as a starter, threw more interceptions than needed touchdown passes. But the ability to respond to that immediately in the moment and not let it snowball, because you see this with young quarterbacks all the time at the college and NFL level. They make a mistake, and then it just starts to snowball for whatever reason. I think CJ's ability to bounce back so quickly and like it's nothing says a lot about where he is mentally in his ability to handle, like you said, handle the pressure. Like these things aren't going to affect him. But then to come back with sort of that, okay, you want to pick me off, my very next pass, I'm going right back to that same guy, that same part of the field, and throw a rope for 28 yards. That says a lot about who he is as a quarterback, in my opinion.
Well, it also says a lot about Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator. Not afraid to call a pass play right away. Not afraid to get him back on the horse, even though he's been thrown off. You made the mistake. Why did you make the mistake? What did you see? Those are all things I love to talk to young quarterbacks about. When I sit down in a film room with a young quarterback, I ask him to tell me what he sees. I don't want him to tell me what he thinks I want to hear. I want him to tell me what he saw. So, because if he tells me what he saw, we can correct it or say it's okay. If you try and make something up and give you some cockamamie answer, that doesn't fly. I think Mike has done a great job with both Riley and CJ and continuing to have them get better and better as the year has gone on.
So here you talk about the complementary aspects of it, and you played your last 2 years as a starter at Notre Dame. You threw to one of the greatest receivers ever played at Notre Dame, Tom Gatewood.
Yep.
What is it like for a young quarterback to have? I'm not trying to say that Malachi Fields is as good as Tom Gatewood, but he is kind of that guy. And then having a player like him, having Jeremiyah Love, having that kind of talent around you, what does it do for the mental aspect of a young quarterback, knowing he doesn't have to go kind of do it all himself? Because I think that's been one of CJ's issues is I kind of feel like sometimes he feels he has to go make that big throw instead of just saying, hey, dude, check it down to Jeremiah. He's the best player in college football. Go let him cook. But what does it do for a young quarterback when you have a Malachi Fields? What was it like for you when you had a Tom Gatewood to say, hey, I'm going to be all right. Just, I've got these guys around me that can go make plays.
It gives you added confidence to know that the guys are there to make plays for you. You basically just want to put it in the general area of where they are because they're going to make plays. The design of the routes give you a chance to be able to do things. But having people make plays for you as a quarterback is a huge confidence builder. I mean, sometimes you get so confident that you make a mistake. But just being able to temper the confidence is very, very important. And I think that's what it does with these guys.
Well, Mr. Theismann, we so greatly appreciate you joining us. Before we have you go, I know you've got some things going on. You have a book that you've recently written, and you've got some other great things going on. We just want to give you a chance to mention those things that you're doing for Notre Dame fans before we get you out of here. And again, we thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank both Trevor and you, Brian. Thank you for having me. I wrote a book called How to Be a Champion Every Day, and I draw an analogy between the world of sports, the world of business, and our own lives. Have some fun stories. I talk about my record-setting 1-yard punt and some of the things that are interesting that have happened in my life. And on my website, I list a number of items that I'll autograph, and all I ask for is a donation to St. Jude's Children's Research Center. Any way we can help the young people, any way we can help those fighting cancer and their families. St. Jude doesn't charge anybody a penny. So it's an opportunity for us to be able to raise money and be able to support something that's very, very near and dear to me.
Well, we certainly appreciate you, and it is a tremendous, tremendous organization, and we thank you so much. And I obviously know it's kind of interesting that you do that. CJ Carr and his family have their fund that they do to help fight the cancer that his younger brother died of. So when you use your name, your status to be able to help those who don't is a truly amazing thing. So we appreciate you so much. And I do, hopefully one of these days CJ Carr can come close to that record, but I'm pretty sure we won't see CJ Carr back there returning punts at any point in time during his Notre Dame career.
Brian, I think that's a fair assumption.
That's why I pay myself the big bucks, so we appreciate you, Mr. Theismann. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank
sir.
you. Bye-bye.
So everybody, that was Joe Theismann. That was pretty awesome. That was pretty cool. I got brownie points from my parents because they're both big Redskins fans, so they're very happy with me right now. But that was great, and you can see it. I mean, I just love hearing from former alums. Chris Zortz was this way when you had him on. How they just feel so much more connected to the program now under Marcus Freeman. It's just really something that I think is awesome to have. So yeah.
Man, he got me fired up when he was talking about like Notre Dame's identity as a team. It's like, we're going to line up across. I was like, yo, man, I might have to go strap on the pads for a second. I was getting fired up, bro.
Strap it up, baby. Let's get this thing going. So no, it was great, but you can just see the excitement that a lot of Notre Dame fans have, because I think what happens is guys like Joe Theismann, Chris Zortz, they know football and they can watch Notre Dame, and they used to be able to watch Notre Dame. But yeah, Notre Dame's good, but they just don't compete with these other teams. But he can watch them, watch them play, and then watch Ohio State play, watch them play, watch Indiana play, and be like, yeah, these are the best teams that you see. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the football people talk about that. And so it was cool to get him on to talk about Jeremiyah Love, and who's going through a similar experience that he went through, and CJ Carr and those type of things. Cause we can talk about it as outsiders, but this is someone who went through it, who lived that. And so I thought that was very cool. So we're super thankful he was on, and, yeah, hopefully we'll try to get him back on again one of these days. Maybe if Notre Dame's playing their 6th game from now, maybe we might try to get him on before that or something. So we'll see.
Well played, sir.
You like that?
That was cool.
You like that?
It was cool hearing about him and his Heisman journey and where he sees Jeremiyah Love, and he echoes a lot of the same sentiment that we do. I mean, Jeremiyah Love still has the best odds out of anybody that's not a quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy by our friends over at FanDuel. I mean, that's really, really impressive still. And to hear his story and what he went through and what he sees in Jeremiyah Love was really, really special. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's right, too. It should be about the best player in college football, not the best quarterback for the best teams. And that's not to take anything away from Francisco Mendoza or Julian Sand or Marcel Reed, because as you and I talked about the other day, Marcel Reed in any era should be, with what he's doing this season, should be a Heisman Trophy finalist. But I mean, a lot of people say it. It's not just Notre Dame fans. It's not just us. It's not just Joe Theismann. You see people saying it nationally too. Like, dude, that's the best player in college football. Well, isn't that what the Heisman Trophy is supposed to go to? The best player in college football? And the thing that Joe pointed out that I love is that Jeremiyah has evolved as a player quite a bit in his tenure. I mean, last year he could run. He didn't do as much in the pass game. He would lead block for Riley Leonard. He didn't run the football. This year he's running the football even better than he did last year. He's catching the ball more than he did last year. He's still lead blocking occasionally, but his pass pro has improved a great deal. That doesn't just happen overnight. That doesn't happen because you have more experience. That happens because you worked at it. You thought, hey, this is a part of my game that has to get better. I don't want to come off the field. And so it'd be easy for a big-time running back like Jeremiyah Love to be like, nah, Aeneas has got this. I'm good. I'm just going to run the ball and catch the ball. I don't need to pass, bro. But he's become very good at it and takes pride in it. And we've said this before. Some of Jeremiyah Love's biggest celebrations the last 2 years were after blocks. I mean, what was it? Was it the Penn State game or Indiana game where he led block for Riley Leonard and drilled a guy? And he's in the end zone going nuts. Just
Penn
celebrating like crazy. He celebrated more for that than he did that crazy 2-yard run that he had for a touchdown. But that just says, hey, this is a kid that wants to win and do whatever it takes to win. And if that means I got to tote the rock, then I'm going to tote the rock. If that means I got to carry the ball, I'm going to carry the ball. If that means I got to lead block for my quarterback, I'll lead block for my quarterback. Like, did he look at all in his feelings about not getting the ball for another touchdown chance against Pitt on Saturday when CJ Carr ran it in? No, he flew through the hole and was looking for somebody to hit. And that just says a lot about who Jeremiyah Love is as a person, honestly, in psych and mentality, but also the kind of player he is. And that's why it gets frustrating when you're just not seeing him get nearly the recognition when in reality he's a significantly better football player than Francisco Mendoza and Julian Sand, and I would argue Marcel Reed. But like you said, it's become such a dominant quarterback award that unless you're putting up insane numbers like Derrick Henry did in 2016 or Devontae Smith did in 2020, it's basically a quarterback award, except in years where there aren't any good quarterbacks, or big name quarterbacks, kind of like how last year was a little bit. So, but you needed a two-way player to win it last year. You know what I mean? And a running back putting up insane numbers last year. But there's no doubt that Jeremiyah Love's the best player in college football. I do think the next 2 weeks give him a chance to make another statement, because, you're playing Syracuse. Francisco Mendoza's off this week. I think Marcel Reed and them are playing a 1AA team, I believe, this weekend. Don't they play a 1AA team? Samford, right. I think is who they play this weekend.
Yeah, they're favored by 51.5 points.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
It's like crazy.
So he does have a chance to kind of go out there and put up some big numbers these next couple weeks. So we'll see how it goes. And he gets one of the last chances in the regular season to make a statement since Notre Dame kicks off the last game at 10:30 on Saturday night. So
an hour and a half before the next day. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It'll be at halftime. It'll be Sunday. Yeah.
It'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Game started today, ended tomorrow. So there you go. But no, he's having a big time year and has played well in their biggest games. I mean, honestly. Anyway, so that's it. So, Trev, that'll do it for this part one of today's show, folks. We really thank you for being with us here. We've got a lot more planned for you, a lot more to do today, a lot more to talk about today. We're going to get to game predictions next. But before we do, folks, do us a favor. See a little thumbs up button down there below us. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Share this with you. We say those things because when you do that, it does help the algorithm kind of, it helps promote our show so more people see our show. We haven't been getting quite the push from YouTube lately. So the more you guys engage with the show, leave comments, hit the like button, share it, and all those type of things, it certainly helps us a lot. Same thing with if you're listening via podcast platform, giving us a 5-star review greatly helps us. It helps promote our show. It's one of those things that you can do that you're helping support us because you like what we're doing. That doesn't cost you anything. So we greatly appreciate that. But of course, the best way to support us at Irish Breakdown is to sign up for the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com.